Hello and an excellent evening. And tonight we have the Sinclair ZX81, which is a microcomputer, and really microcomputer, from the UK from 1981. This particular model here was made in 1982, which is the year also the Spectrum came out. But yeah, they were still selling these because these were very cheap to make and very cheaply made, I have to admit. They have 1 KB of RAM as the 80 CPU and a terrible keyboard, if you can call that, which is just a membrane with some sensors underneath, basically. And for a lot of people, those were the first computers that they were using, supporting BASIC. And they learned to code and play games on it. And yeah, it is definitely an iconic machine. And today we are going to try and find out if this thing still works and if it needs repairs. And if it works, we will give it a little composite mod, because here is an RF output which has terrible quality and works only on analog tuners. So that's basically all you get with this little thing. 1 KB of RAM, that's not plenty to work with, but let's have a look what it can do and what it looks like inside. So here's the device. I already opened it up. The screws are here. There are 4 case screws and there was one longer black one. 2 of the case screws are hidden behind rubber feet, so you have to remove them. These 2 don't have any feet behind them. There are 2 more screws here and here, so take care that you have taken out all of those, and then the whole thing lifts up. Also be very careful because there's the ribbon. Oh, there's another black screw, the ribbon cable, which in my case was already broken in half, more or less. And here I attached the rubber feet so I don't lose them. The membrane doesn't work anymore due to this. You could probably fix this with wires, but it will break again because it's super brittle after 40 years or 45 years almost. So I think it's not a good idea to keep this, actually. We'll have a look at the main board in a second. This is the bottom shell. Also, the ZX81 logo doesn't have any red coloring anymore, only like slight remains, and was painted red. I might get some model paint for painting, well, model planes or cars or whatever, and redo this to make it nice and shiny again. But for now it will stay like this. Okay, let's have a look at the main board, which is super simple. In fact, let me zoom down a bit. As you can see, this is really the cheapest computer possible in 1981, probably, because there are only 4 ICs here. You couldn't get away with less, I think. Main thing is the ports on the left side. This is the 9-volt DC in, which incidentally is the same barrel jack, no, not barrel jack, like phone jack as the Atari 2600 uses. Then you have microphone input and output, which is for the tape connection. So you would basically use a standard tape recorder, not even a dataset or something like that. This is the RF modulator, which has a terrible quality. So we will open this up in time and do a little composite mod. And a very simple one, which leaves this thing more or less in place, so you can reverse this thing. But it will give us hopefully a slightly better output and don't require an analog tuner. And then there's the ULA by Ferranti, which is basically all the logic that is required to run this thing. The Z80 CPU, which in this case is actually an NEC part, D780C. I do have a 2023 Z80, which I
Wonder if I should put it in here because it would work, but then again it wouldn't be original anymore, of course. And then there's the ROM chip with the basic and routines according to whatever the thing still does, probably just loading and interpreting basic. There are 4 more address pins available. Not sure if bigger ROMs were available for this thing with enhanced features. I have no idea. And there is one 1 kilobyte SRAM chip by Mostec. It's a MK4801AN. So that should be easy enough to replace. There's also the option to put 2 RAM chips in here. I guess with smaller footprint, maybe those would be 1K times 4, giving you the 1K of RAM in over 2 chips, I guess. These are the keyboard connectors. They sometimes break. They are not super great quality, but I think they're still good. I will deoxide everything. This is the edge connector where the RAM expansion would fit, or other accessories for this thing. And there's the 7805 voltage regulator. It's the CT variant. I think that's 1.5 amps or something. Probably 1.5 amps. With a big heatsink. I will leave that in because I think it's still good. We can measure it later, but I fired this up on a TV tuner and it did work with terrible image quality though. So I think we are fine regarding the whole board. I think there doesn't need to be done anything. They left a couple of components off of this revision. There should be a filtering capacitor, 10 microfarads on C13 here. I think it's those 2 pads, and there are jumper links where it says I1 and I2. I think those might have been inductors for filtering, probably. They left them off as well. But yeah, I think it works like that. There's only 2 more transistors. I don't know what they are for. Probably would have to check with the schematics. So, super simple board. Also, there's only solder mask on one side to keep the cost down. The back side has a nice red solder mask, which is actually pretty beautiful, I think. Looks like the Gravis Ultrasound or something. Yeah, so super cheap computer with a very cheap keyboard. The issue with this is, of course, that it is glued down, and I'm gonna zoom out a bit. It's glued down and we have to peel it off. I will first try very gently doing it without assistance, just like so. And if that doesn't work, I will use my heat gun at like 50 degrees or something, not to melt the plastic, to soften up the glue. And I do have a brand new membrane. There are, I think, better keyboards available, but I don't want to use them because that would be like, this computer is this computer because it is so cheap. It has to have this ultra cheap plastic foil keyboard. And yeah, you can get those still newly made, and it smells so much like glue. It's amazing. With 3M branded adhesive, which is nice. Okay, let's plug off the old keyboard and reapply the new one. There we go. This is the old keyboard with the broken foil. You can see it's really just 2 layers of printed foil, basically, that make contact if you press on it. Very cheap, extremely cheap. Copyright 1980. Yeah, not sure if this is worth saving, but it's interesting, and the replacement looks really exactly like that. Well, the shift has a slightly different font, But it's very nice, and it says copyright 2014. So there you go. This is all relatively clean, but I will use some IPA to clean off any old residue anyway. And there you go, it's applied. Next up will be the composite mod. We'll have to find a way to do that. And I think it's similar to the VCS in that we can hook into one of these lines here. One should be, I'm not sure if there's audio, but there's definitely video in, and probably power. I don't think this is audio. Maybe it does, like beeping, but I'm not quite sure. I had a look in here before, that's why this can is already a bit bent. And I think there is a mod using only one transistor for the video, without any audio, so I think maybe there's some mod where you can put in a beeper, but I don't think the ZX81 had audio from factory. So yeah, we can basically desolder or cut something here on the RCA jack and hook up the video signal to that. And that should be possible. So giving a quick break and I figure that out. Okay, so this is the mod that I'm going to try to implement. We will have to cut this component here, or desolder this component here. I think that is the only one. Maybe there's a ferrite bead there attached as well, but this, I'm not sure, capacitor or resistor needs to be desoldered. Then we will go through a 33 ohm, but I don't have that, resistor to the transistor, and there's a voltage divider with 100 ohms to ground. I do have a 47 ohm. They tried 18 and 33. I do have 22 and 47. 18 was used on a ZX80, I think, said the instructions. And the ZX81 used 33 ohms. Thing is, if this 47 is too high and we get too dark an output, I can solder a 100 ohm resistor in parallel and I will get nearly 33 ohms. So let's first try a little too high and then walk our way down. This is a 100 ohms, so that should be fine. Then we have the resistor with the base going into the video signal. So we have to cut or desolder that down here as well. That will be fun. And the collector goes to the +5, which is this line here. So let's see if we can reach that. Should come out here somewhere. So that will be fiddly. Let's see if I can put this all inside here. I can, of course, clear out the whole thing, but I want to make it so that we can remove the mod if needed. There might be some heat shrink tubing necessary, so let's see how that goes. I might also use this extra hole here, down here, to feed the 5 volt in. Maybe that makes sense. There will be noise from the RF, I guess, but so be it. If I can cut the 5 volt supply without destroying anything else, I might go that route. Maybe I just cut it or desolder it here and then put the extra wire through here. This way, and an isolated wire at that, because there's so much stuff that I can touch. I do want to have this being able to redo it to factory default, basically. So yeah, let's try that. Well, then I went down a rabbit hole. It is the next day and I designed this little circuit here after researching a ton. And I can't do any electronics design in theory, but I think I figured something out here. There's a thread on Mastodon, I will also link to that, where I was examining the simple solution that I first put in here, but then the levels were completely off. I got into a discussion with a couple of people and I came up with this solution here, which uses 1 transistor and 2 diodes. I currently bridged this diode here because if I leave this diode in, levels are way too low. I have to say that this is video out. Composite video has to be 1 volt peak to peak, and it looks something like this. You have the last signal somehow ending, then you go into the vertical blank down to negative or 0 volt, depending on which thing you're using. Then you get the so-called front porch, where there would also be color burst on color systems, and then the picture goes again, and so on. This happens like 15,000 times a second. And this here is 1 volt. This here is roughly 0.3 volts, and there needs to be roughly 0.7 volts between the white and the black level, because this here is the black. And with the diode in place, we have roughly only 40 millivolts here and 600 millivolts up here. And if I remove this, I get way too hot a signal, so I get something like 1.2 volts here and 0. I'm not quite sure, I have to look that up. Let's quickly check. Something like 580, so 0.6. That's too high. Someone suggested to put in maybe a Schottky diode here, which I don't have at hand. I will try that, but for now you can. The video works with both, but they are definitely out of spec. It's very hard to get. So this here is basically the output from the ULA, which I simulated using two pulse generators. This is totally off spec anyway. So you need to do some kind of transformation. The original signal looks something more like this, goes down, goes way up high, and then even higher, and down again. And this here lies at roughly 3.8 volts, and this here at 3.2 or something, roughly, but it depends also on if you have a load or not. Anyway, this here is much closer to being in spec and producing a fairly good signal on my devices. So your mileage may vary. It also doesn't fit properly anymore into the can here, so I disabled the video in and the +5 on the on this thing here. Plus I removed the resistor from the video pin, fed in my video in there. So this is disabled but still complete. So we can reverse this mod if we want to. No issue there, which is exactly what I wanted to achieve. And I think I will use some sticky tape, double-sided tape, to put this on here. There's also Captain tape on the bottom so it doesn't short out. And then we'll try to close up the machine again. I'm not sure if that actually is possible, because there's not that much headroom. Otherwise, I'm just going to put it over the ULA, which will not be good for heat dissipation, I have to admit. Because the ULA actually runs a wee bit hot, and I'm not sure
where all the posts are. I think something like this. Yeah, this should do it. But I do see that there is really not much clearance on top of this thing. Yeah, let me quickly try to do this and I'll report back. There we go. I put it down here on those resistors with some 3M high quality double-sided tape. That should keep it in place. There's this heat generated from the 7805, of course, in the vicinity, but that shouldn't be a problem because there's nothing that can short out, at least immediately. I think I'll go with that. I might add some hot glue as well, which is easily removed. And let's put this back together and give this thing a test run. All right, it did fit. I lost one of the rubber feet, the other one is here, and it doesn't stick anymore. So I ordered a couple of new feet. I think that's just fair. We are gonna have a look at OBS and see if we can code something. I do have my trusty converter here, but I need also some power for both the converter and for the ZX81, I mean, obviously. Make sure to always have it unplugged before you plug it in, because there's no power switch on this, and these are the stupid kind of phone or headphone jacks that can short out if you plug them in. And I think we don't want that. I'm gonna start recording and we're gonna see. Yeah, the cursor comes up. The screen is pretty nice and wide and clear. Let me zoom down a bit here. That's a bit too much. Something like that. So since the keyboard is so terrible, Sinclair was nice enough to have you not have to press all the letters for example, for print. Let's do P and it already says print, and then shift and quotation marks. And let's say hello world. Very readable, no comparison to the first mod that I tried. And then I think Newline should, yeah, save this into the basic program memory. Then we do 20, and go to is here on the G. Go to 10, Newline, and there we have our program. Let's try it. Oh, run was of course also. Rub out is delete, and then Newline, and there we go. 5 out of 10, whatever that means. Maybe this gets 5 out of 10 stars, I have no idea. But yeah, it works. You can also do stuff like graphics, which are these characters. I think, yeah, this is how you do these extra, like Petsky style, I would say. With these you can build very primitive block graphics, basically. Yeah, that's basically an arrow, so it doesn't take that. But yeah, you can do all kinds of stuff with this. You can only, without additional stuff, you can only plug in the cassette tape. But honestly, this thing has 1 kilobyte of RAM. This is more a toy, I would say, or a little educational thing to get acquainted to computers. Still, I like it very much, and I think the Composite mod does look pretty good. Text is nice and sharp. If I get a Schottky diode, I might revisit it and put that in to get better levels. But I think my converter is pretty fine with this. With the original mod, everything was blown out. You couldn't read anything because it was like over 3 volts. But I think 1.2 volts is still okay, and the black and the back porch is low enough that it does sync correctly, and the black looks a bit washed out, yes, which is par for the course, I guess. but it looks pretty decent. I think for occasional use, and this thing won't see much more than occasional use, I think it's fine. I will try and see if I can touch up this with some model paint. But yeah, please check out the discussion on Mastodon. I will put a link to my profile and everything in the video description. The nice thing about Mastodon is you don't even have to join. You can just read that thing like a website, as it should be. And if you want to join, it's very easy to just get yourself an account on one of the hundreds of servers and join in the discussions. It's basically the only social media that I'm currently using, because all the other stuff has gone down the drain for one reason or another. And there's a lot of retro people on there that you might know or not know. And it's a very nice community. While doing this, there were already like 3 or 4 people giving useful comments, etc. And it's very, very nice and very helpful community there. So that's it for today. Still have got a cold, as you can hear. So I'm gonna quit this year with this video. And enjoy the holidays, and I hope you do too. And yeah, we'll see each other hopefully in the next year. And share, like, and subscribe. Please do comment. Did you ever have a Sinclair, maybe a ZX80 or ZX81 or the Spectrum? What do you think of it? What can I type in that is interesting and doesn't require like hours of debugging, which I can show off to people if they want to see what this little machine can do. But that's it for today, and thanks very much for watching. Bye!